Welcome to Media Breakfast, Cliff Notes Edition. We save you the time, you keep the insight. Today we're breaking down a long discussion about Brexit and whether leaving the EU was a terrible mistake. The goal here isn't to pick a side, it's to understand why the sides exist at all. On the surface, this debate is about results. Are people better off after Brexit or worse off? Underneath, it's really a clash over what matters more. Is it practical outcomes like jobs and prices? Or is it national self-rule, meaning we make our own decisions? You hear four main voices. Dan Hannan and Robert Toombs argue Brexit was right. Dominic Grieve and Stella Creasy argue it was a mistake. The room starts mostly against Brexit. By the end, more people drift toward the pro-Brexit side. That shift matters. It hints at which kind of argument landed, not just logically, but emotionally. So what are these arguments really made of? Dominic Grieve builds his case on consequences. He says the promised benefits did not show up. Instead, Britain got trade friction, new costs, and less influence abroad. He points to official forecasts saying Brexit lowers long-term economic output by around 4%. He also mentions exporters saying they're now at a disadvantage. A big theme is paperwork. He describes tens of millions of customs forms, plus a big bill for businesses to handle them. So what does that actually change? If the economy is smaller, the government collects less tax money. That can mean less funding for the NHS, schools, or social care. Grieve keeps returning to this chain. Smaller economy, smaller public budget, fewer options. He also makes a second claim. Britain lost influence. Grieve says when you're inside the EU, you help shape big decisions with allies. When you're outside, you can still talk, but you're not at the main table. He points to France and Germany leading the EU's approach on Ukraine. Britain, in his view, has to lobby from the side. His logic is straightforward. If the big table is where decisions get made, leaving the table usually reduces your say. Then Grieve goes deeper than economics and diplomacy. He links Brexit to political chaos at home. He argues that the fight to deliver Brexit created space for a leader he calls dishonest. He says people tolerated fraud because they wanted Brexit done. His fear isn't only money and trade, it's trust. It's the idea that politics can get warped by a huge promise people feel must be delivered. Here's why that matters in real life. If you think politics is already fragile, you worry about any shock that stresses it further. Grieve is protecting stability, reputation, and predictable government. His worry is a country that can't keep its own promises without breaking itself. Robert Toombs responds from a different place. He's less focused on whether GDP rises this year. He's focused on what kind of system the EU is. His core claim is that the EU isn't just a trade club. It's a political project that keeps pulling power upward. He uses strong language and calls the EU anti-democratic. By that he means not controlled enough by voters. He says decisions feel far away, and ordinary citizens can't easily see who is responsible. He adds examples of leaders accused of misconduct. The goal is to paint a picture of a distant ruling class. Notice what shifts here. Grieve says, look at the costs. Toombs says, look at the structure. One argument is about outcomes. The other is about who gets to decide. Those can slide past each other, even if both people are being sincere. Toombs also makes a future-focused point. He argues Europe is becoming less central to world power and trade. He says Britain's exports have been growing faster outside the EU than inside it. In his frame, Britain should trade more with the wider world. The EU becomes one region among many, not the obvious center of Britain's future. But his most powerful point in this room is symbolic. He says asking, "What did Brexit gain us?" is like asking what women gained from getting the vote. His answer is, you gained democracy. You gained a say. For people who care most about self-rule, that's hard to argue with using spreadsheets. Dan Hannan backs up that message and adds a sharper edge. He says the key question is what the EU is becoming, not just what it is today. In his view, staying in the EU was never keeping things the same. He argues the EU moves in one direction: more shared rules, more shared power, and more shared government. He uses the word devolution, meaning moving power down to local control. He claims that if the EU had shown even one real example of powers moving back to member countries, Remain would have won. Why? Because voters would have believed they could stay in and still keep control. But Hannan argues Brussels wouldn't do that, even if it meant losing a major member. So what does that change? It turns Brexit into a defensive move. Not, we hate Europe, but we don't want to be absorbed into something bigger. Hannan ends with a clean contrast. He says he'd rather live in a free democracy than a multinational empire, meaning a big bloc ruling many nations. Stella Creasy steps in as the other main anti-Brexit voice. She takes a different path from Grieve. Creasy focuses on promises and honesty. She brings up famous leave claims, like money for the NHS. She says people were sold a story that didn't match reality. She also points to lost opportunities like Erasmus, the student exchange program. And she argues the country spent years stuck in arguments and paperwork instead of solving real problems. Creasy makes another political point too. She suggests some leaders used Brexit as cover. When things went wrong, they could blame someone else. She also implies some pro-Brexit voices want the benefits without owning the costs. There's a psychological difference here. Grieve is warning about national decline and instability. Creasy is warning about wasted time and broken trust. She seems to be protecting fairness and competence. Her vibe is, even if you like the idea, don't accept a sloppy, dishonest version of it. Let's simplify the core clash. The pro-Brexit side is selling control. The anti-Brexit side is selling capability. Control means we decide. Capability means we can actually deliver results. That's why the immigration exchange is revealing. An audience question asks if staff shortages are worse because of Brexit. Dan says yes, but he frames it as a fixable choice. Brexit gave Britain control of immigration policy, so Britain can choose to let in the workers it needs, like chefs. Dominic agrees shortages are linked to Brexit, but he calls the new visa system ponderous, meaning slow and heavy. He says the old system was flexible. Workers could come and go easily from nearby countries. Why should anyone care about this detail? Because it shows the trade-off in a simple way. Control can still create worse day-to-day systems. If you control a system badly, you still suffer the results. But the pro-Brexit side has an answer ready. They argue that's not Brexit's fault. That's how the government used the freedom. This is where it gets tricky. They start fighting over what counts as Brexit. Is Brexit the choice to leave? Or is it the way leaders carried it out? Pro-Brexit speakers often treat bad outcomes as fixable mistakes by leaders. Anti-Brexit speakers treat those outcomes as predictable costs of leaving. So they talk past each other. One side says, "We can change policy and make this work." The other says, "The whole thing has been a costly distraction, and the damage is already real." Another flashpoint is influence and Ukraine. Grieve says Britain has less influence outside the EU. Toombs says the EU is divided and slow, and Britain has been more decisive. Both claims can sound reasonable, depending on what you value. If you think unity matters most, being inside the bloc sounds powerful. If you think speed matters most, being outside can look nimble. Here's a clean way to picture it. It's the difference between steering a big ship and driving a speedboat. The ship can move huge weight, but it turns slowly. The speedboat turns fast, but it can't carry as much. Now, about that audience swing at the end. The pro-Brexit side gains ground. A big reason is that they anchor on a moral idea that's hard to price tag: self-government. They also tap into a common feeling that big institutions can be distant and hard to hold accountable. But balance matters, so steelman the anti-Brexit side. Grieve's strongest warning is that trade and paperwork costs are not abstract. They hit real businesses quickly. Creasy's strongest warning is that political promises matter. If a project wins by hype, it risks governing by hype. And their shared concern about influence is serious. In many crises, your power comes from alliances, not solo moves. So the real fight isn't just who's right. It's, what do you count as a loss you can't accept? Brexit supporters in this debate are protecting dignity and control. They fear being permanently overruled by a growing EU system. Brexit critics are protecting stability and competence. They fear a country that's smaller, distracted, and less trusted. The tension is simple, and it's still hanging there. Is democracy mainly about choosing your own rules, even if it costs you? Or is it about building the best life, even if it means sharing control? This was Media Breakfast. Cliff Notes. Take the map, make your own route.